Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is James, and I work as a software developer in downtown Victoria. As a lifelong Greater Victoria resident and recent first-time homebuyer, I would like to voice my wholehearted support for the Missing Middle Housing Initiative. I live with my wife, who works at the University of Victoria, and until recently, we rented a two-bedroom apartment in James Bay. I come to you from a place of privilege. We did all the things you're supposed to do. We both grew up in the region, studied hard at university, and worked hard to establish ourselves early in our careers. This past month, we were incredibly fortunate to buy a two-bedroom plus den starter house just across the border in Saanich. We were only able to do this, however, with some monetary help from my parents towards the down payment, and because our household income is quite a bit higher than the median in Greater Victoria. I say this in order to lay out my cards on the table and provide some context. We support this initiative while also being homeowners with skin in the game, so to speak, and to highlight how untenable the housing market is for the majority of younger people starting out. For many of our friends and family, the idea of owning or even renting quality housing in our region is becoming increasingly difficult. While we are fortunate to have secured stable housing for ourselves, we worry constantly that people in our life will be forced to leave the area. As an example, my sister and her husband, a BC public servant and tradesperson respectively, have considered moving out of the province entirely to be able to afford a home. They are currently living in my parents' basement with their one-year-old daughter while they search for suitable housing. The median detached house in Victoria is now well over $1 million, and a large majority of the city's land is zoned exclusively for such detached houses. Every detached house that we replace with another detached house represents a lost opportunity to make a better land use decision on that parcel for the next 60 to 100 years. Decisions that could potentially house several families instead of just one. The status quo puts us further down a path towards exclusion. While not everybody will be able to afford missing middle housing, far more people could realistically attain a townhome or unit of houseplex than could afford your average $1.3 million house. Providing options for these buyers reduces pressure on our older, more affordable housing stock, which in turn provides more options for lower income residents, renters, and everyone. I've heard some express concerns about the loss of neighborhood character. I believe we will lose a lot more neighborhood character by failing to provide adequate housing for people of diverse incomes, ages, and family sizes. If anything, building more missing middle housing allows more neighbors to move into a neighborhood, supporting increased amenities like corner stores, coffee shops, restaurants, and increasing the vibrancy and character of the neighborhood. Just look at neighborhoods like Cook Street Village, Fernwood Village, James Bay, Chinatown for examples of this. While we nitpick the particulars around neighborhood character, setbacks, floor space ratio, density, green space, the reality is that thousands of residents in our city face the prospect of becoming homeless daily, with the possibility of being evicted from their homes at any time with no affordable options available on the market. As an example, a former colleague of mine was recently forced to move from the house she was renting in Saanich along with her family as her landlord was selling the property. Given the tight rental market, she was forced to move to Colwood to find a house with enough space for her family at a rental rate significantly higher than her previous rent. She was fortunate enough to be able to absorb the increased costs as her and her partner are both high-income professionals, but many others in her situation, and are in her situation, would be forced to leave the region entirely. This policy is not a silver bullet, but no policy is. I urge Council to please do not let perfect be the enemy of good. And to be clear, I think this proposal is very good. We need to speed up the process of building more housing options to facilitate catching up on decades of underbuilding. Thousands of current residents of our region are underhoused today. Passing this initiative is a vital step towards building a more equitable housing landscape in our city and will reduce the barriers towards building more attainable housing for young people and those who cannot afford to rent or buy adequate housing under our current system. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for providing this opportunity to speak.